Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Tonight I didn't have a lesson planned. I had nothing to go through, but I wanted to take a minute to tell you guys about the wonderful experience that I had being able to volunteer at my church's camp that we host every year. Every year we host a 4-day camp, and it is an absolute blessing to be able to be with those kids at the time. I was a counselor this year. It's my second year as a counselor. And last year, I was kind of learning the ropes of things and trying to figure everything out and to get to know who the kids were. I volunteered at this camp for quite a few years, but last year was the first year I got to be a counselor, and it was if not the most rewarding experiences I've ever had. This year, I got a few of the same kids that I had last year. I'm a father of 5 kids myself, so I got put in a tent with a lot of our younger campers, which was great because I'm raising 5 kids of my own. So it's I'm raising 5 kids of my own. So I got put in a tent with a lot of our younger campers, ages from 8 to 10 or 11 years old, which was great because, like I said, I'm raising 5 kids and I have kids in that age range. So it worked out really well. Um, this year I got a co-counselor who came to our church and helped us last year, and he is a absolute wonderful guy. I couldn't have asked for a better co-counselor. He he and I, we became good friends last year, I thought, and you know, we were in separate tents last year. This year, they put us together, and it was an absolute blessing to be able to be with him. We made a really good team. I was a little harder on the kids. The dad instincts kicked in a lot. But he was a lot softer and gentler with the kids. It was like good cop and bad cop in our tent, and it actually worked out really well. Um, I can't say enough great things about this guy. He did an absolute wonderful job helping me out. Where I was strong, he was weak. Where he was weak, or he was strong, I was weak. It worked out really well for us. Um, but like I said, most rewarding experience I think I've ever had. It was hard. Um, we set up in uh, some old military tents that we had gotten from a military base nearby. Um, editor show a picture of those. Uh, those are terrible to sleep in. They're big, they're bulky, they're heavy, and they make that tent just humid like crazy. And it was hot. This last when we were there, it was like probably 80 some degrees all week, and it was hot in those tents. And of course, we had to put them down at night for our privacy and our safety. So it was warm, but um, it was rough. I'm gonna be honest. I was sore. I was tired. Sunburnt to a crisp. All when I was done uh, with those 4 days. But yeah, it was a great time. Um, I didn't get to teach a class this year. Last year, I got to teach um, the teens class. That's kind of been my class the last few years, and I didn't get that opportunity this year, which was unfortunate, but it was also rewarding at the same time. The Lord knows what's best for us, and He always has a plan. And I'll get to that in a minute. But uh, we had a much smaller camp this year. We usually have, I'll say, 10 to 14 in a tent, these for the boys' tents. And this year, I think we only had 7 total, 5 kids and 2 counselors. So it was much smaller. But those 5 kids were absolutely wonderful. Like I said, I've known them all from the last few years, and I think 4 of the 5 were in my tent um, the previous year. And to watch how much they grew just in that year was amazing. I mean, you know, it was fun because there was one kid, I think he was the youngest member of our tent, and he didn't want to participate in some of the activities that we had planned. We go fishing. Sometimes we go swimming, or we went swimming every day, went fishing every day. Sometimes he didn't want to participate, and he's like, "Can I just read my Bible?" And it was just amazing to hear him say that. And he would practice some verses. We give the kids memory verses to do, to try to help them memorize some verses. He did that, and just to see how much they grew from that previous year, how much more they could do, how much more memorization they can do. And it was just great. It was a great experience all the way around. Um, I actually have one of our old church camp shirts, old camp shirts. But I mean, we just had an absolute blast, and we had to come up with a nickname for our tent. We had competition between all the tents, and I didn't get to teach this year. I didn't get to teach a teens class, but that gave me about an hour or so to myself every day, and I was able to come up with a few things to help our tent along. And I came up with a few names, and we all voted on the Hallelujah Hideout was our tent name, and so that was fun. Everybody seemed to enjoy that. But because I wasn't teaching this year, I had the opportunity. Um, I ran it by the kids. There's a lot of things we can do for points, to see which tent will win. And there's memorizing verses. There's keeping our tents clean during inspection time. Um, there's specials with songs, plays or skits. All this stuff um, gets us points. And so we put on a skit, and I had some time because I wasn't teaching, that I was able to write up a little skit for us. And it was about a cowboy who stole from a bank, and we were doing the sentencing scene during our skit, and somebody stepped in, took his punishment for us. And it talks about how Jesus, even though we were, you know, sentenced to death because of our sin, he stepped in and took it for us. Um, Kids absolutely loved it. They had an absolute blast doing it, and I kind of wrote up this little skit, and the kids absolutely they had a great time, and we actually did. The kids did so well that we performed it, I think, on Wednesday, um, in front of the whole camp, and they actually had us do it on that Friday too, in front of all the parents when they came to pick up the kids. And kids had an absolute great time doing it, and they did wonderful. I mean, we had the youngest age at our camp is like 8 years old, and is like 8 to 10 or 8 to 11 year olds up there. Just did a wonderful job. My co-counselor found out what our camp theme was. It was Western themed, and actually brought a lot of Western props with him, so we were able to use those. And I never would have thought of doing that, but like I said, where I'm weak, he was strong, and where he was weak, I was strong. And um, we just had an absolute blast with that. So, um, but um, the most rewarding part of the whole thing, um, there was a kid in our tent, and he didn't get the tent he wanted. He was in a tent with a lot of younger kids. A lot of kids his age, a lot of his friends from his church were in another tent. So I think he was kind of disappointed about that. But he did an absolute wonderful job of trying to help the younger campers, whether it was learning verses. He took a leadership in our tent that was great. Did his best to get as much points as he could for our tent. Did a wonderful job with that, and he just did a great job. And it was the most rewarding part about it was we have a fishing trophy every year, and for like 2 days or so he had the record. And he had some setbacks with our tournament night Thursday night, our last night together, and we put on some tournaments, ping pong and some other games. And we have a trophy for all those, and he lost. in those, but it was okay because he had the fishing trophy, and he was so excited. And I didn't want him to get too excited just in case, because a lot of times the last day someone will get the trophy, somebody will have the biggest fish, and I was like, so I was telling him, like, don't get super excited yet. You haven't won it, but he did a great job. I was so excited for him. He was so excited. And that last day, he lost the fishing trophy. Somebody caught a fish bigger than him, and the poor kid was so heartbroken. And he was crying, and um, you know, so I sat with him in our tent, and I talked to him, and I was trying to have him keep his head up, and he was so heartbroken. It was heartbreaking. Like, it brought a tear to my eye. And there's our top award every year. It's called the Christian Character Award, and it basically goes to a camper who goes above and beyond, and is really an exemplary Christian, and somebody who takes charge and takes leadership and really goes above and beyond. And I was like, well, there's one more award out there he could get, but he was so heartbroken over that fishing trophy, and I felt so bad for him. And it had me confront a lot of feelings that I had too, because this last year has been really rough for me and my family. We had the birth of our son, which was wonderful. He was our youngest, our fifth, but I ended up in the hospital getting diagnosed with congestive heart failure, which was terrifying to me and my family, and something I'm going to deal with for the rest of my life. But I'm back on the right track. And then my wife went in the hospital. Um, just pneumonia, but still, she was hospitalized for like 3 days with that. And then our 4-year-old, um, who was 3 at the time, actually, it was before his birthday, he went into heart surgery. Um, he had a deformed valve in his heart, and it didn't fully develop, and it was letting a lot of blood and stuff through that didn't open and close properly. He had to have heart surgery. It was a rough year. And then the and all that was hard. And on top of all that, the um, place I thought God was leading me um, didn't happen. And then I felt lost spiritually, because it felt like everything was coming together and God was leading me a certain way. And when it finally came to, uh, I didn't get it. And not only did I not get that, there were other doors I think He had opened for me that were closed because I didn't listen to the way I should have. And it was um, something that I had to confront again when talking to this camper, when he's just crying his eyes out because he lost his fishing trophy. And it's something I had to confront again. Um, it was rough. It was rough. It was a rough last day. Um, but God works everything out in the end. And I remember, um, God works everything out in the end. And I remember us counselors getting together with our camp director. We were talking about who's going to win that Christian Character Award, and you know, it would seem like a setup if I was to nominate this camper, trying to get him a trophy, and it would be disingenuous for me to do it for that reason, even though I felt terrible for him. But there were multiple other counselors in other tents, in the other boy tent and in the girls' tents, um, that all nominated this particular camper for that award. And my co-counselor and I could not have agreed more. He had done such a great job for us, especially being disappointed day one when he wasn't with all of his friends. Um, just the nicest young guy, and it was so rewarding to hear the wonderful things about the other counselors had seen him do. And I don't even think he was really trying. but it was just something that naturally came. And that's something that I always talk about when we talk about the fruits of the Spirit and how we can't earn our salvation, but there are things that happen naturally. Naturally, we're going to have joy in our hearts. Naturally, we're going to worship the Lord. Naturally, we're going to help others. Naturally, we're going to have the urge to help other people, to say nice things, and to be nice people. That all comes naturally after you're saved. And, he was doing all that and not even trying. And that's what really set him apart from so many other people. And I got to sit there with this kid. I sat there just a few hours before he was bawling his eyes out on his cot, and I was sitting next to him, trying to comfort him, and my heart was breaking for him. And we were talking about the failures that I had this last year, and we were both kind of teary eyed about it. And to watch as our camp director called his name for that Christian Character Award, and the poor kid was just so filled with emotion and shaking with emotion because he had won our top prize. And no, he didn't get that fishing trophy that he wanted. And no, he didn't get the ping pong trophy. And he didn't get the carpet ball trophy. But this kid got the Christian Character Award trophy, which was absolutely amazing. And he was shaking. I could see him physically shaking. And I had written out this long like an endorsement letter of why he should get this trophy. And our camp director didn't even read it because we had already nominated him, but he said that we should read it in front of all the parents. And I gave that pleasure to my co-counselor. As much as I really enjoyed having this kid and having that moment with him, and really caring for this kid, it was an honor to be able to step back and to let my co-counselor just say these wonderful things about this kid. And yeah, after it was all done and we broke up, and we had our closing ceremony, I was able to just, we all stood up. I turned around. He was sitting behind me, I remember, and I grabbed his shoulders and I gave him a big hug. And I said, I told you it's not over until it's over. It's not. And I told him that. I said, it's not over. It's not over yet. You can still walk out with something. And I told him, I was like, I told you. I knew you could do it. I knew that there was something special planned for you. And I talked to him a little bit, and I told him it wasn't me and the co-counselor that had nominated him initially, although we agreed with it. But it was other people in other tents, and they had seen what he did. And I just encouraged him to continue with that hunger and that fire he has for God, and that hunger he has to learn and understand him. He has so many questions. And there were nights where we would have our nightly devotions in our tents, and if he didn't get his questions answered that night, he asked them again the next night. And just a blessing to be able to talk to him. The whole thing was just wonderful. And as much pain and suffering I went through, the sleepless nights, the sunburns, the physical exhaustion, the mental exhaustion, and just always being on all the time, especially with these kids, when these parents give these kids to us and they're ours to care for, even when it's all said and done and we're all going home. It's a sad moment, you know. It's these are kids I'm probably not gonna see for at least a year if they come back. There were kids last year I really enjoyed that didn't come back, and they were missed. And I'm hoping these kids keep in touch because it was such a rewarding experience. And I say all this and I tell you these stories just to tell you, if you ever have an opportunity to help someone or to volunteer at a church camp or to help kids of any age or to help someone do it, it is such a rewarding experience. What are you gonna do? Sit on your butt and watch YouTube or flip through shorts and reels and TikTok and all that and waste your day away? Or could you make a difference in someone's life? It is such a rewarding experience. This is an experience I'm never gonna forget. It was such a blessing to be able to do all this. So I say this, this kid in my tent who had no idea the impact he'd have on other people and really inspired me. He inspired me to keep going, and that's why I'm starting to build this channel and this kids channel I'm trying to build, because he inspired me that it's not over till it's over, and it may feel over, and it may feel like you don't know where to go in life. It may feel like you're a failure and you don't know what the future holds, and you're hoping God just opens one more door that you can step through. But God has something special for us. We all have talents. Use them for God. And if you ever get an opportunity, whether it's just a summer camp or a Christian camp or a VBS or whatever the case is, I mean, I teach at our church too, and that is such a rewarding experience. I talk about those kids all the time in my class to people that don't even care, that don't know who they are and don't care about them. I brag about them anyway. It is such a rewarding experience. Any opportunity you have to be able to not just serve God, but to glorify Him is a wonderful experience, and He'll make sure you have that wonderful experience. If you ever get the chance, please do it. Like I said, I was exhausted, I felt beat up, burnt to a crisp, I was bitten up by bugs. I mean, if a bear had come, wandered into our camp, I might have sacrificed myself, because I was just so miserable part of that time. But it was such a rewarding experience, such a blessing. I mean, such a blessing to be with those kids. So, you ever get the chance, do it, and just know it's not over till it's over. You know, like I did with that camper. It was so amazing to see how far they came, and I hope in the years to come I get to see how far they go, because there's such a fire for God, such a hunger for that knowledge. I was jealous of it, because there's days I don't have that. These kids seem to have it every single day, so it's such a blessing. Thank you for listening. Sorry for my rambling story. It was just experience I had that was just an amazing experience, and I hope you get to do something of the same. Have a wonderful night.